Hola, hola. I'm Trek with two Ks,
And I am 3D, and welcome to Metaverses the Other Side.
brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto Network. Just a heads up, this episode is before we had the idea of bringing the Twitter spaces to the Gentleman of Crypto Network. And so that's why we're talking about the stuff that we're talking about in this episode.
All right, folks. We are rolling in. I gotta send some invites, and yeah, I was messing up. What's going on, 3D? Hold on. Doing it wrong. All right, hold up. Give me a second. Oh, hey, raise your hand for me so I could. You know what? I think that's what it is. I did the wrong thing.
What up?
Yo. All right. So I want to try something different today. And nope, that's not what I wanted. I was thinking about this the other day because I was talking with CB about something. So I did X amount of posts. I did later. And so I'm gonna try to do a recording on the OBS side. I still haven't done the thing to experiment and see how the download process works. Cause yeah, I am very surprised that Twitter has not already made a feature where you can do the download aside from having to do that whole like full search for your data download. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused on why they don't have it set up like that either.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Something just got attention. I'm over here messing around trying to set the thing up, and then I seen some stupidness. Oh man. I'm gonna read you this question real quick. Evangelical Christian furries are worried they'll be targeted for their faith. My guy.
That is crazy. You know that on your bears?
Hey, what's going on, sir? That is hilarious. I gotta come back to this one because I'm gonna talk about this on my Tears Intelligence. It is wow the world that we live in. That is the least I could say about it. It is wow the world that we live in. All right, where are you? Bam. All right. So, hey, I'm gonna mute my side. If you could just carry on for a little minute while I try to work this out.
All right. So, today we're actually talking about not coding, but on the layer one as a possibility. And I'm going to bring Minor Biz in here because I'm sure he has a lot of resources and information from this too. But with some of the resources we've been able to come across and some of the new generators that are happening, basically coding directly for the layer one, it is extremely possible without having to know how to code at all. Going as far as like we can build the contract, deploy the contract, and even test and verify the contract without having to worry about like a second layer or anything like that, or even additional stuff that we can deploy directly to like Ethereum or some of the other EVMs. No problems, no worries, no issues. And I think that the kind of generators being built now that are coming out just within like the past month are extremely advanced just compared to like what we had a year ago. Extremely advanced. And if you want to go like when I made my first token on Ethereum, the 39 token, I mean, I did that like years and years ago. I want to say like 2017 or 18. And I used a token generator, and it was basically barely anything. It barely worked, and it was on GitHub and stuff. And now, like, we can go down and say, oh, well, we want these tokens to be where you can't put them into liquidation pools. You want to set them up to where you can't transfer them, where the transferring is really complicated, but like a kind of 2-button click and boom, you can have a non-transferable token that can be used for determining like different things. Like I'm part of a group or I'm part of a this or that. They can still be burned, but they can't be transferred. And then you have different burning techniques that can be done at true burning or transfer burning. And the black hole listing, was it 0x0, whatever, on Ethereum. That's technically a transfer burn, so to speak. And it's not letting me add in Mind Your Biz as a speaker. Oh, that sucks. I think Trek, you have to do that. Yeah, like it's just getting insane what we can really do. And so I think we were trying to figure out how to compare this into like metaverse type stuff. And it's like, well, some of the stuff that's coming out where the contracts that we can make now without having to code anything are getting to a point where we can pretty much embed other websites and things into the smart contract code to where it can be deployed directly off of their smart contract. So we're actually getting to a point where we can start using the Ethereum blockchain or EVMs in general to actually host the data of the website, something that was really difficult to do before this, but still was possible, just wasn't as practical as it is now, where now you embed the data into its own contract, and then you have another contract that deploys it to the user. And that can be done through things like sending, like I said earlier, sending a non-transferable token, and that token allows you to access that website. And now it's just a combination of getting the like Etherscan and your web browser to work together. And there's even somebody who's actually already in process of building a system to make not only Etherscan 10 times easier to deal with contracts, but allow for like seemingly native deployment of things from the contract to your browser as if it's anything else. Click and boom, it's done. It pops up. Instead of like how it has to be a lot of times where it's you have to figure out where it's at. You have to find something a node to deploy what you're looking at and things like that. Or if the button is actually on Etherscan, you have to do that way. Sometimes there's a button and you click the button, you sign a transaction, you sign another transaction, and then hopefully you get something that pops up. So this stuff is getting, I just like how advanced some of these generators are actually getting. Because last year, I think I was doing something on there, and just getting the contract to deploy on there through a generator, it was like, I think it took me like a week just to figure out how to get it to deploy, not how to build it or anything, just how to get it to deploy through it. But now we, even like with Remix, that solves that problem 100%. And then, it's just getting crazy. Some of the tech that they have being built to just correlate to these EVMs specifically.
Okay, so real quick, Mind Your Biz is in family mode by doing dinner right now, so that's why he's not actually answering. I'm gonna say, yeah, he just DM'd me on that one. So you threw out a number of things just now, and we got to break it down for the folks. I'm sorry, I'm out here throwing out my recycles right now. So you folks who are about to protect the earth, I'm doing my part, quote, I'm recycling. But you said a number of things. You're talking about no transfer contracts. You're talking about contracts, NFTs that could transfer, and then those that can't transfer, as well as being able to just deploy contracts. We got to slow down. Remember, at times we take things for granted. That's one of the things about this space that's kind of funny is the longer you're in and the more you mess around and actually use the stuff, and like, you're not just being a tourist about, hey, I have a crypto, I'm in the in club, or I'm cool, and you're actually utilizing it and building things, you get to a point where you say words or you start spitting out things. And this is just in general, I do the same thing myself, and I have to catch myself. So let's step back one and first off break down, what are we talking about when we say no coding? And then what does that mean in relation to, quote, layer one? Because now there's a layer 0. So let's make that distinction and kind of help walk people through.
All right, yeah, that's a good point. So layer 1, let me just start with layer 0. Layer 0 is the direct data. That's the direct blockchain. That's the direct everything. Layer 1 are contracts deployed on top of that things deployed on top of that. So it's not the native EVM code. It's actually code being built on top of it. And then layer 2 would be like side chains and additional networks built on, normally through the smart contracts, but not directly on the smart contract. So when I'm saying like we can now make tokens, I don't just mean NFTs, because we've always been able to build NFTs that are not transferable, but we can make literal like coins that are non-transferable. We can actually do real burn mechanics, which means that we're not actually sending the token or the NFT to something. We're actually literally burning it, where there is a notification basically on the blockchain that says, hey, this no longer exists. And then if anybody ever tries to reference that specific ID, it's not going to be accepted. That means that you can also burn contracts. If you have a contract that's non-updatable and you need to get rid of it, before it was just kind of like, you kind of just hoped everyone forgot it existed, but now we can actually catch it on fire. We can burn it. We can put a note somewhere that says, this is not here. And just compared to a year ago, that was not possible. So it's a huge step up in the game. And then like some of the stuff when we're talking about these generators, all that is bits of code that allow you to just like click on a GUI to build anything, almost anything. I haven't found one that does specifically metaverses or anything like that, but we're getting stuff where, building a smart contract in general can be done with a GUI, deploying it can be done on a GUI. And so now we're getting to a point where you don't have to own a node. You don't have to run a node service. You just have to have some ETH in your wallet or whatever EVM you're running on, and you can make a contract to do almost anything. And I think this is really unique compared to a lot of other ones, because there's a lot of stuff happening on all the chains, but the people that are building for specifically EVMs, and since there's so many different EVM chains, and this opens up more than just Ethereum, it opens up to, BSC and Poly, and I don't even know all of the EVMs. There's so many different EVMs out there. I'm not even sure what they all are. And I know there are some chains that work with EVMs, even though they're not EVMs, and these systems still sort of work on there. Is there anything else I need to pull back and talk about? Because I kind of forgot.
Okay, so I just want to throw this out there for the folks who are like, oh my God, he still said a whole lot. Here is the basic thing to understand. You will not get all of this in just listening to one session of a space that me and 3D are hosting. You will not get this if you listen to all of the sessions we had this month, in that you will be able to go out and execute and perfectly understand. No, not at all. This whole thing is a continuous learning process. We have to go through our learning processes of trial and error, breaking things, trying to figure out where we broke it at, or like, was it already broke before we got there? And then figuring out what part of it works for what we need. It is a constant learning process. As he mentioned before, the idea of trying to figure out how to do that smart contract, that wasn't even the part. It was just trying to figure out how to actually say, turn on and then do the thing that you're supposed to do. Not even trying to figure out how to write it, just figuring out how to turn it on. This is the thing that, for what I argue, is this no code wave that's growing in the Web3 thing, or this what do we call it, the Web3 evolution of Web2, is that there will be a number of features, as 3D just alluded to and gave in some specific examples, that will allow you to create and build things without actually knowing C++, without actually knowing JavaScript, without actually knowing any of the, major or even minor coding languages that have been considered like the bedrock of, if you want to be able to build something digitally, you need to learn one of these languages, if not more than one. And so the point of what we've been trying to do with these Twitter spaces is exploring the concept of digital realty, which I still find it amazing for where we started in this conversation and where we are now, and how we are exploring what does it mean. what are the possibilities? How far can this really go? And for those who may not have heard any of the prior ones, we didn't record all of them. That's some, again, trial and error, learn while failing forward. We figuring out as we go along. We started off with just talking about, hey, here's what you can do in the metaverse as a, let's say, money-making opportunity without coding or trading. Then we got into the thing of, hey, well, is there a list of tools that can help you build things inside of metaverses, whether they be blockchain or not blockchain-based metaverses? And that got 3D, Mr. Russo, who's not in right now, and myself to throw the thing together of a website list that breaks down no code to low code level open source tools that do not, have a paid version and a free version that allows you to build inside the metaverses. I got to figure out how to do the jumbo screen thing to share the link for that. But the website does exist. You can go on there. It right now is mainly EVM related open source tools that you can use to build inside of different metaverses. Also being able to build even for things related to Wax, for those who are fans of the Wax protocol or who are into Uplift, which is where me and 3D do X amount of our building of things as far as the metaverse goes. And to now where we're bringing up the question or bringing to some like, how does or is no code being able to create a possibility, a thing to be able to be done at let's say the layer one, right? So we're talking about the smart contracts that operate on the code that makes the blockchain. Basically what we're talking about. And again, I know 3D said a lot of stuff. It's a good thing there's a recording for this. So you can always go back and like pick at the words. You can always Google the stuff. You can always DM one of us and be like, hey, what did this? And we'll give you the example. Or we'll try to help you walk through on it. The other thing, and I got to be the PR guy on this, is at the end of this month, August 30th, we're holding our webinar, which is titled, What is Digital Realty? And that particular webinar is based on some of the basics of understanding metaverses and opportunities that can be utilized for making money in metaverses without coding, without trading, and not even talking about like these open source tool things the way we're talking about them now. We're talking about like using things like advertisement models or real estate models. If you are really feeling, degenny and froggy, you can even learn how to do things like making skins, right? I would imagine that not too long from now, meaning sometime within this year, if not before next summer, someone's going to figure out a more easier way to make skins for like Decentraland, or an easier way to make skins in Minecraft, right? And these are the opportunities that people can have if you have the wherewithal to understand how to use the tool, figure out what tactic or what method works best for you in whatever metaverse you want to deal in. So if you want to deal in crypto voxels, if you want to deal in Decentraland, if you want to deal in Minecraft itself, or if you want to go on into one of the private server versions, such as Uplift, which is built within the Minecraft ecosystem, either all opportunities ranging from non-crypto, non-blockchain related metaverses to examples of blockchain, crypto related metaverses. Sorry for the ramble, folks, but I gotta throw all of these things in because we only run this space for an hour. We don't do the extended long, blah, blah, blah. And so that's where we're at. I just want to say, what is that? Linkera, thanks for joining in. You want to throw up a question? You want to make a statement? What's up? What's up?
Yeah, I try to get him pulled in, but he might be on a computer. I know they still don't let computers in on these spaces, like as in being able to talk and stuff, unless you emulate a phone on the computer or something like that. But yeah, like I'm not really good at the marketing thing. I'm so glad you take care of that for me. But just the type of stuff that we're seeing happen within just like the metaverse ideal. Because I remember when I first saw that there were countries and states saying, "Hey, digital realtors are a real realtor." That's when I was like, okay, that's how you know the metaverse space is really going to open up to be bigger things. Because when governments are recognizing um, this as a whole, not just like within digital realty, but also selling your homes online in various new ways. This just opens up what more people can do. And there are a lot of people out there that say, well, I don't want to get into something unless, I can verify it as as an actual business or an actual something. And then we figured, now that you can actually sell digital realty as a real business. You can be a recognized business officially for digital realty. There are no ways to get a certificate or anything yet for that. That will come. And now then, like Trick said, we just basically said, hey, let's apply real, how I would sell my home in real life. Let's apply that to this. And I've been in the space so long, like I've been playing these different video games and stuff. I used to be a carpenter on Second Life, and I used to do all this. So I kind of saw all these different things, and I knew that some of the real realty stuff really worked. And I wrote a paper, and then from there we just kind of expanded on. And then nowadays it's expanded so far to where it's like, you don't even have to even buy or sell land. There's so many of these metaverses, you just buy one token and then boom, you're into that metaverse. And there are people that need people to help sell. There are people that need help advertise, marketing. I think what we really have been noticing is that a majority of the people buying land in metaverses are businesses. They're actually businesses buying it off of other people that have already purchased it. They're buying it secondhand. And so that gives more opportunity, because like, if you know how to build something in one of these, then you can really expand out from there. And it's now that we're at this point where it's like, well, how could someone who has no coding ability build in one of these? And that's where we're at now, where we're like, okay, let's go on these venues and let's figure out how someone who knows nothing about this stuff can still have access to this stuff in a way where they can actually turn this into a business, or try to turn a profit and all these other things. And it's really playing out. I mean, we've only been really working on like the no coding part of it for a few months, and it's just exploding very recently. And I think that's because of the whole metaverse stuff. People are building stuff because there's tons of people going, I want in the metaverse, but I'm not going to be able to flip land. I'm not going to be able to sell assets. So how can I still do it? Well, there are people that need someone to sit down and spend the time out to make it happen. Like me with Minecraft stuff, I built one of the smallest 4-way directional machines in Minecraft, where actually the people of Minecraft, like the Minecraft Twitter account and someone from the actual Mahong, has actually recognized me as that individual. So it was like, when I tell people, yeah, I can build something on your plot, blah, 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 for Uplift and some of the other Minecraft stuff, I can use that as reference, right? But a lot of people are going, well, how can I? And nowadays, if you can go, well, I know where the tools are to build what you're needing, that right there, that's the reference. That's all you really need. And for a lot of, companies and corporations and stuff that are wanting to make something, they'll accept even the smallest amount of work, because they're like, well, if I can get my presence in there first, I have that opportunity to get more eyes on it. I have an opportunity to make more revenue, more adverts, all this other stuff, right? And so that we just see this, an opportunity that hasn't been available like this in a long time, where anybody and everybody can get in. This is like, to me, I feel like this is the early days of Bitcoin, when you could take almost any device and you could mine Bitcoin, and actually mine a block of Bitcoin solo within 24 to 48 hours. We're back to that point, but now it's building in the metaverse. And it's just so weird and strange to hear, because like for example, like Solana, like I know for Mind Your Biz, Solana is a pain in the butt to learn. And I think like Conrad, you've experienced some of the different pains of trying to get NFTs pushed onto different chains, and everybody has problems, but once you figure out how to get that stuff done, well, that's a business option for you to offer to other people. You can now go to people and say, hey, look, here's my proof of blah, blah, blah. I can build it. And even if because there's a lot of people out there, they make NFTs and they never sell. But now, even if you just have the NFT, okay, well, there's your proof of build. I can build on this chain. I can build over here with that. And if they ask for references, you say, well, I have the access to the tools that give these options available. And you don't have to tell them where the tools are. A lot of times, just knowing that you have these tools at your disposal, that's going to be the key point into getting in. And yeah, I'm absolutely 100% like ecstatic about how the space is moving right now.
Okay, so Lakira DM'd me, and so apparently the Twitter algos do not like his phone or their phone. Sorry. Yeah, it is. It's going how it's going right now. So we're taking it for what it is. Nonetheless, we do appreciate folks for tapping in. Good thing that we have this recorded. So, we can go back and definitely check this out at a later date. And I'm going to have to start posting it more so folks will know about the recordings. You said something that I wanted to jump in with. And I was doing a kicking a session with CB, that's Crypto Blood. If you don't know, for those of you who are new, who will hear this later on, I contribute to Crypto Blood TV's YouTube channel called CBTV. I do a session called My Two Satoshis. We also do a live stream session called Kicking It, where he brings on different people from the space, and we talk about, crypto news stuff. Forgot what it was we were talking about today, but it brought me to, it was something about NFTs, but it brought me to something that I thought about since our last session, space session. And I think this plays very much into this whole no code wave, and then being able to do things at the layer one within the different blockchains that will make into different, or that will function within different metaverses. I would argue that metaverses are going to follow the path that websites followed. Website development followed. So # / comma, whatever. And when I say that, what I mean is this, and I think that it is definitely, if you look at how websites and developing websites have developed over the years, the no code thing makes total sense. And it should really, it probably is on a shorter trajectory or timeline than website development. Because initially you had to have the technical know-how, meaning you had to learn how to code in order to make the website. Then somebody figures out, hey, I can streamline some of the process where you don't have to learn like absolute code. And so now you can do a website build where you can go to like Webflow, or you can go to Wix or GoDaddy. I forgot the name for the other one. And it's just like drag and drop, or just use the template. You don't even got to drag and drop anything in. They just give you the template. I would argue that since the metaverses itself are not, how to say this? They're just software, right? The whole thing is software. And then there's a feature involved in it that allows you to connect in blockchain related utilities. So whether we're talking about data storage, or whether we're talking about data storage as far as the metadata side of it, and a monetary utility, right? But we get to the point where you don't even need to know about any of that. All you're doing is checking the box, and then it compulates the whole thing for you. And then you name it whatever you want to name it, just like you did with websites. I'm going to name my website Big Danny Doe. I'm going to name my website Johnny B. Late. I'm going to name my website pets.com. Like, it's going to be the same thing with metaverses. And just like how there were opportunities for people who took the time to learn the basics of what they needed to be able to do, quote, web development. Like, you're not going to school, especially a 4-year school, for web development now. Not at all. The same thing is going to play out for not websites, for metaverses. And a large part of that is going to be based on this no code wave. The thing that I said in particularly earlier today on CB's live stream was that metaverses are going to follow a particular path of how websites went. And so most folks have heard the phrase, the buzzword, dark web, but most folks don't understand, who are on the internet, who are in their phones every day, that you use the average internet user uses like less than 10% of the actual internet. There's a small side of the quote user, accessible side of the internet that most quote people use, right? But there's a whole nother more than 50, 70% of the internet that is labeled as like the dark web. And there's another term that I can't remember, that folks generally, as an average internet user, whether it be on desktop or phone, do not access. I think the same thing is going to play out with metaverses. There's going to be a small collection. And when I say small, I'm talking like a couple 100,000, if not up to like 20 million around there, of metaverses that will be okay, here's where everyone generally congregates. But there's going to be a whole near 1 trillion different metaverses that, unless you're really into the space, and I'm not just talking crypto, I'm just talking unless you're really into perusing through the digital realms, you're not even going to know that stuff is there. Just like how websites work out. Just like how most people know about the NBA website. Most people know about Facebook website. But you don't know about like the couple thousand different sites that deal with sports, that deal with betting, that deal with a whole different, other niche of community of folks around the NBA or other sports. Why? Because that's not where you at. That's just my thought. Sorry for the ramble. I really wish we could get Maya Biz and Winkara to jump in on this one, because I know I said something that tapped on something for one of y'all right now. But 3D, if you got something.
Actually, like, your rambles are normally really good, so never apologize, bro. You got that stuff. You ramble about the good things, and you're right. Both Maya Biz and Winkara, they have tons of information, and I know that they both deal with various different things that, hold on a second, that would basically be able to add into the conversation and stuff. But that's the other part about this whole thing is like, with this, because it's not really new technology, but it's just a new way of using old technology, so to speak. And that's really just giving people more options than they've ever had. And, there are some people that are getting into video games now because of metaverse, that term, that they never played games, and they're starting to experience things that will maybe 10, 20 years ago, they probably would have been like, and it's not for me. That's kind of stupid, or that's boring. And now when you're like, oh, but there's a possibility to earn more from it, they're like, oh, well, they're more willing to look into it and stuff. And as we get more people onto, cryptocurrency as a whole, like, no matter how we get them in, as long as we get them in a way that they can handle, then, that's always going to be a bonus for this system, the ecosphere, everything that's happening. Like, back when there wasn't a whole lot of people that even dealt with cryptocurrency, like I remember when I would have to find people that had miners and they were using servers as miners, and convince them, let me send you Bitcoin and you stop mining on that so I can use it to run an online business, because I need a server that's up all the time, but I don't have that ability. And just like some of the older ways of using Bitcoin was so hard just because there wasn't a whole lot of people. The more there's and the easier it is to use cryptocurrency as a whole. Like MineUBiz, for example, he has an entire store of onslaught of various things from the Freedom Phone to clothing to everything you can think of. It seems like he accepts crypto. He accepts it. And one of the first places I bought a t-shirt online was $6 tees. They accepted Bitcoin, and that paid for my shipping, that paid for my tax, that paid for everything. And they came here from Brazil. And it was, I still actually own that shirt. It's a Bitcoin shirt. And it's just getting to a point where, here soon your governments are going to be on this. And people who are doing metaverse stuff, I know there's always that whole like Facebook perspective where everybody's going to be wearing a goggle headset and you're not going to be seeing anything. But like Trick said, that's just going to be like that's just going to be one version of the metaverse layer. And there's going to be another version of the metaverse layer where it's more crypto-centric of the same thing, but maybe not headsets, maybe screens instead, or combination of the three, cell phone, computer, VR. And then there's also there's even personalized private spaces that are metaverses for people like Rocket Gallery. They actually just they have galleries in Uplift and on other things, and they went ahead and just kind of finally combined the two. They made something on Uplift. They was able to do a snapshot of it, remove it out of the Uplift, and then they put it into Spatial, which is a completely different, it's a almost like a Web2 based metaverse thing, and it's interconnected with Ethereum. So they were able to basically put the Uplift gallery in a non-Uplift space. People who didn't have Minecraft could actually join in and experience it as if they had Minecraft. And these type of integrations where people are learning how to take stuff out of one spot, put it in another spot, it's really evolving the space pretty quickly, as in perspective. People are not just looking at it, oh, this is just games. People are now looking at it going, okay, this is almost anything I want it to be that I would have put on a website. I can now do in a metaverse.
Yo, that's mind blowing right there. Okay, so this is the stuff that always draws me to the crypto space, but tech in general, is that creative and exploratory nature of folks who are just all right, well, how do we open this out? How do we take, something from this side and then bring it over to the other side? And the other part of just I don't want to say hacking, but hacking kind of applies, and not in the scammy take advantage of people sense, but in the sense of how do I expand the utility or the function of this thing to suit me? That's the stuff that I like about this space. And that's one of the things that I think for how this no code wave or this no code access to be able to create within Web3, honestly, this is not just a metaverse thing. This is the bigger thing of Web3. And that the idea, I think, let me not say the idea, it's I know what, the big tech firms and manufacturers and, vendors and stuff like that are thinking. But the way that I look at this is what is going to scale development, right? And when I say scale development, I mean it in the sense of, as opposed to where you have the traditional setup of access to the information, limited access to information, limited access to resources, limited access to the testing sets and all that stuff, because it's just a singular company that controls / owns it, or a singular government that does the same thing. We get into where it's, all right, let's just throw everything out and then we see what the people come up with. So as opposed to just having the 5 people go through the process of trying to figure out how to do a certain thing, or how to say this, randomly come across some new invention, which a fair amount of science came out of accidents, right? The person or the team did not intend to do a particular thing,
They just happened to notice that it did something. Was like, oh, well, what do you know? We could do this with that. All right, now we know something new. And then that runs off into a whole new thing. I think the same thing is playing out in this move towards the what's the word? The growing industry of Web3 and all that entails, right? So if we're talking about data storage, if we're talking about digital identity, if we're talking about moving the ability of contract enforcement in traditional business law into the digital age, if we're talking about products and services that are connected to some kind of digital system, like it's an across the board thing, but X amount of that experiment on what are the best practices, I think are being pushed over to the retail level folks. And when I say, the retail level folks, I mean that as the technology is open enough at access, as long as you either have the awareness and the what's the word? The desire to explore, or better yet, even if you don't have the desire to explore it yourself, if you have the vision and then you're able to connect with someone who is willing to actually do the legwork, because that's how X amount of the startup projects and stuff go now. You got the idea person, and then the idea person finds the person who can actually execute, which is in part, and this might sound a little funky, but like the numbers are what they are. That's why when you look at X number of software-based products or projects that start here in the States, X amount of time, they have somebody from India or Pakistan on their dev team because their devs execute. Somebody over here has the idea, but they need somebody over there to execute the technical side of it. We're getting to the point where, no, we're not going to do away with devs. But if you got the idea, you don't know how to code, there's more than likely some platform or some toolbox somewhere. As long as you can read the basic instructions, you're either going to have the template or you're going to be able to drag and drop and make a whole new set of things. But we're doing this at scale. So it's not just you as the person in your small town. It's anyone who has access to a smartphone or the internet. Your competition, and somebody said this to me a while ago, your competition isn't the, hey, I'm going to start selling shirts online and I just got to worry about the other, like, let's say 5 people in my zip code. And it's like, let's say 50,000 people in your zip code, right? Then you get into, well, how many people live in your city or how many people live in your county? Now you scale that up. But if you got the internet, now you're talking about, it's a million level competition. It's not just the kid who has access across the street from you, who also talks to you about internet things. Now it's the kid who lives in a village somewhere in Kenya. It's the other kid or adult who lives in Tokyo someplace. The other person who lives in Alberta, Canada. Like, that's the level of scale we're talking about. And once you have access to the internet, all of this stuff opens up. And it opens up to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a 12-year-old or if you're a 65-year-old. That's the stuff I like about this space. That's just me, though.
Yeah. Hey, Chuck, I'm going to jump in really fast. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to jump on stage and contribute here.
Oh, please jump in, sir. Please.
Yeah, just what you were saying before about the difference between genuinely building something from scratch versus the idea, the concept of hacking. And like you made the distinction, right? Not hacking in a malicious sense, like where you're cracking passwords or whatever, or you're trying to steal people's stuff, but just getting something to offer you alternate functionality by making some tweaks. And I think right now, the current absolute state of things in the Web3 sort of NFT and maybe even to a lesser extent, the play to earn space, we're very close to that, where with some of the platforms, they're not like hacking platforms, but if you can use them, they are self-serve. Well, they're not completely no code. They are relatively low code.
but they still have the requirements of knowing how to operate in Web3, right? Like you still need to use a Web3 wallet. You still need to know how to sign transactions. And by extension, you still need to know how to do seed phrase security and private key security. And if you're not doing those things, you're going to get left behind or you're going to get wrecked. So there's still kind of a steep learning curve for most people, beyond the idea of having to put together sort of low code Lego building blocks, right? To get stuff done. But those things are already in production right now. You do have some of these platforms, like one that comes to mind is manifold.xyz. You got others that like it, and what it does is it helps in doing large scale mints on Ethereum and on Polygon in particular. There may be some other EVMs that it helps you launch on, but procedural or not procedural, but generative NFT collections, that's now accessible. You can list on OpenSea and on Rarible and on all the major EVM oriented marketplaces using a platform like this that's low code. And that does increase that accessibility to anybody who already has kind of the core Web3 skills of being able to manage seed phrases and understand how to sign with private keys. So we're already seeing this in a pretty extensive way. And one case study is at some of the NFT shows, and shameless plug, I'm going to be in Las Vegas this coming weekend. So a week from today, I'll be in Las Vegas at the NFT event that's happening there. So if anybody in the audience, anybody who's listening to this after the fact is on the fence, you should go, because you're going to meet people like the 12-year-olds that Trek was talking about before. Like you're going to meet 12 and 14 and 16-year-olds who've created their own generative NFT collections and have completely altered the course of their family's history, right? Like they've sold millions of dollars worth of NFTs just because they had enough time. They had the time to be able to explore their creativity. And now with the accessibility of these tools, they have all of the ability to launch large scale NFT collections that, we would love to be able to do on our own. And these kids, they have these low code tools available to them. So the tech isn't a barrier is what I'm saying. Web3 skills, they've got to have them, but the tech isn't a barrier. Now it's not exactly as simple as like, whatever Shopify, right? You point and you click and you have a little color picker that drops down for you. It's not quite at that level, but I think Trek, when it does get to that level, we're going to find that a lot of the massive financial upside to Web3, to NFTs and to play to earn, all that upside disappears when it gets that easy. Like the alpha in this space is available kind of now. And it's only going to give us diminishing returns into the future as these tools go from low code into fully no code options. And the same with like e-commerce, right? You can have a Shopify store. It doesn't mean people are going to buy from you. You still need different skills to make something a commercial success.
100%, 100%. And that's what I was saying. Like, it's going to follow the trajectory of websites. It in the beginning, if you knew how to do the hard coding, you were killing it. And then once we got to like, I would argue, I don't know if Webflow would be like the top, and I don't even know what the midpoint is for metaverses and Web3 as a whole. But I know what we see X amount of the same things. I've said stuff to you, you've said stuff to me, as far as that move from the B2B level to the white label stuff that's being pushed down to the B2C level, AKA the retailer. And like this whole thing of how there is a concerted effort to push people into being creatives. It's not about you creating your own platform per se right now, but it is about you creating content that you could, quote, put on something. And it is very easy to set up, quote, your ecosystem to be able to market out the content of whatever it is you create. Like, yes. Now, and you're right about the Web3 basics about understanding signatures and like understanding the wallets and things like that and the privacy. And you know what's funny? I've been wanting to get you on here for a while in regards to bringing up the thing of privacy, what that means in
metaverses and what that means in the bigger Web3 thing. And I would definitely like to do our next space in relation to digital realty and have it be more focused about what does privacy mean in this bigger context of metaverses, no code, and Web3. So I would really want to have you come back on that one.
Well, hey, thank you. Yeah, I'd be happy to jump onto a conversation about that. I think that's going to be from any of the upcoming events. That's going to be an ongoing topic of conversation for me is adding privacy to any layers and to any platforms. Cause yeah, like you're hinting at, that is privacy and privacy and anonymity in crypto. It's like, it is the final boss of crypto. Like if we don't get there on all these platforms and everything from NFTs to financial instruments to tokens, to wallets. And I don't mean digital ID. I just mean like privacy. If we don't get there, then it doesn't matter what we do after that. Cause we're essentially going to be KO'd by the regulators. And then, it's just like a street fight. After you go lights out, you don't get a say in the outcome of that fight anymore. Right. So privacy is that KO shot. Like we can't afford to let regulators, edge privacy out because we'll never get it back.
Yes, 100%. Mike, thanks for coming in. Palmer, I see you. I appreciate it. But Kara, I know that Twitter is messing with you. And I'm sorry. I really wish we could get you to actually say something too. And yes, mind your biz 100%. Literally, who was I was having the same conversation with someone else. Side note, I'm working on something else. I'm going to bring it to your attention. I just need a couple more things to play out because I think your insight will also be valuable in this other conversation that I have to start having. And I'll bring that up to you offline, bro. Sorry about that. But if anybody want to throw up something, who's able to say something or DM me on the Twitter side, on the Twitter side, if you can't say something for whatever reason, and I'll bring it into the group, or I'll bring it onto the spaces. Oh, look at the time. Jesus, we flew on this one today. Anybody? Ready? All right. So I am going to say, because this is the closeout, like I said, we don't run this really beyond an hour. It turns out that we actually picked like the worst day according to the algos and X amount of the social media management tools to host a space, which is on Sunday at this particular hour that we do it. It turns out this is, according to the algos, the worst day to do it. So come, what is this? September, we're going to be switching days. So I definitely want to put that out there to folks. We'll be switching days and we'll be switching times. You will eventually know what it is when when I actually do post it out there, and then we'll start running through that whole campaign thing. The other thing is, as I've said, this whole thing of doing the Twitter spaces has been about pushing the webinar, which is at the end of this month, August 30th. That is on Eventbrite. You can find it there. You can also find the link in my profile and somewhere within 3D's profile. And the basic idea is we're talking about the basics of digital realty. And we actually do run through that whole thing of like, hey, here's what a MetaMask wallet is. Here's how you deal with setting up a wallet. Here's what you got to do to connect in with, the blockchain-based metaverses versus the non-blockchain ones. And so we give the basics of here's the distinction in metaverses, ecosystems, marketplaces, and here's some ideas that you could probably utilize to make some monetary gains in these different metaverses. Can't promise you nothing. Why? Because we don't know the future. We're just some people who happen to like playing in techie things, and we've learned some things and we figured we would share with other folks. So that's why we're doing the digital realty at the end of the month at, 6 p.m. Again, details and registration stuff is on Eventbrite, and I will close it out on that because it's like 2 minutes left. Unless somebody has something to say, let me see. Is there what is going on? Okay. So hold on. I got to come back. So it seems Twitter is being very, very funky today. and I don't know why, but it won't let 3D talk. Bro, try to drop out and then come back in, and I'll try to do it from that way.
I had to force quit the app from within my phone.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's I I don't know. I feel like the amount of problems you have now with the Twitter space is interesting because I don't feel like it was like this in the beginning. So I don't know. Maybe they're scaling faster than they thought, and the system's being overwhelmed, or the algorithms are just doing what they want to do. But 3D, do you have some closing words?
Yep. I just want to say, you know, anybody can do anything nowadays. The stuff that's being built, just stay chill and keep trying. Keep trying.
Sorry. I'm like trying to respond on the DM side while still getting in on this. So just want to say thank you to the folks for joining us. It is quote the beginning of the week according to what is this, the Gregorian calendar. Hopefully you will have a productive over busy week. If it's not that for you, at least be in good company and in a safe place. And other than that, we will see you at the next one. If we do not see you at the Digital Realty webinar, August 30th, you can find the stuff on Eventbrite and just look through our profiles. You can find a link there too. And yeah, that's it, y'all. I appreciate everyone who tapped in. Thank y'all a lot.